From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
The Trump administration says a budget crisis forces them to cancel programs like soccer and English classes for migrant children in custody.
And Senator Martha McSally visits Omaha Beach in Normandy to pay her respects to those who fought on the 75th anniversary of D-Day.
Also, a father's unique passion becomes the legacy his sons carry on.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Gabriel Moreno.
And I'm Sabina Zofchik. Thank you for joining us.
Migrant apprehensions last month at the U.S.-Mexico border were the highest they've been in 10 years.
Customs and Border Protection reports more than 144,000 people were stopped coming through the southwest border. Amanda Slee is tracking this story.
The Yuma sector of the border saw a 381% increase in family apprehensions from last May. Those high numbers are being blamed for critical budget issues. To solve that, the Trump administration announced yesterday it's canceling English classes, recreational programs, and legal aid for unaccompanied minors in their care.
The fact that they know that if they bring a child, and they are telling us this, that they will be let into the U.S., they're coming. We have apprehended over 230,000 children being brought into the country illegally between the ports of entry this year already. That's unprecedented numbers.
The Department of Health and Human Services says it's asked Congress for an additional $2.9 billion in emergency funding to expand shelters and care. Without that, they say they could run out by the end of the month. Congressman Raul Grijalva spoke out about the funding issues on Twitter, saying the cuts are shameful. He posted, "By eliminating English classes and legal aid that are critical to ensuring children successfully navigate the asylum process, the Trump administration is essentially condemning children to prison and throwing away the key until their imminent deportation." Other Democratic lawmakers say that unaccompanied children are trying to escape gang violence and extreme poverty in Central America. The Border Patrol chief says the majority of those coming aren't seeking asylum.
The vast majority of the families that we are catching are saying they are coming here for economic reasons. Very few actually claim asylum in Border Patrol custody. That's about 8% who claim asylum in Border Patrol custody. But we also have to address the pull factors, and that is the fact that they are being told now is the time to come.
But as the temperatures climb, so does the danger. The body of a Guatemalan woman was found in the desert near Yuma after agents say she became ill and was left behind by the group she was traveling with.
I have had over 610,000 people cross illegally between the ports of entry, and that flow has got to stop. This is the highest we have seen in over a decade, and the demographic change and the dangers of crossing our border between the ports of entry are extremely high.
President Trump has threatened to impose a 5% tariff on Mexican products if authorities don't curb migration from Central America. Mexican officials went to Washington this week to lobby the Trump administration not to make that move. In the newsroom, Amanda Slee, Cronkite News.
Members of Phoenix's Jewish community and supporters held a demonstration to advocate for better treatment and medical care for undocumented migrants. Cronkite News reporter Kevin Fleischman was at the rally and tells us why this group is mobilizing.
Dozens of protesters staged a rally this week outside of Immigration and Customs Enforcement in downtown Phoenix. Arizona Jews for Justice put the gathering together.
As Jews, we have a mandate from our tradition and from our history to care for the immigrant, to care for the asylum seeker, and we have seen too many deaths in detention center and American neglect of the medical needs of these asylum seekers. Protesters are demanding that ICE change its practices surrounding medical care for undocumented migrants seeking asylum. So far, 6 minors have died while under the custody of federal immigration authorities. Other organizations joined in during this week's protest in Phoenix.
So as Lucha, we stand and we're in solidarity with all undocumented and immigrant communities. We see that immigrant and undocumented communities are not being treated right, that they are being put inferior to all other communities, and that's not right. We really need, as Lucha, we're in solidarity with all undocumented immigrant rights through healthcare, through them being able to seek asylum here, but also with them trying to have a citizenship here and be part of the natural society.
Rabbi Shmuley Yankowitz says that as a minority group themselves, they stand in solidarity with the plight of undocumented immigrants seeking asylum.
As Jews, we have a responsibility, just like all Americans do, for some of the most vulnerable on the planet, those who arrive at our borders, to ensure that they have the food and hydration they need and the medical attention they deserve because they have infinite dignity.
Cronkite News reached out to U.S. Customs and Border Protection to get their response to the protest, but we have not received a response back. That still won't stop those who say they will continue to support immigrants until a permanent solution is found.
President Obama failed on immigration reform. President Trump is now failing, and that this is beyond a political issue. This is a moral issue, that of course we have to police our borders. Of course anyone can't just come in and receive whatever they want. But in the meantime, until they get comprehensive immigration reform, we're calling upon the humanitarian crisis to be addressed.
In Phoenix, Kevin Fleischman, Cronkite News.
One of the organizers says they will do more of these demonstrations outside of ICE headquarters until migrants receive the medical care they believe they deserve.
It was 75 years ago today that Allied troops stormed the beaches at Normandy, turning the tide of the Second World War, but at great cost in lives. While world leaders gathered in France to mark the anniversary, the fallen were also remembered here at home, as Julian Paras reports from our Washington bureau.
The National World War II Memorial in Washington is a place for reflection, but visitors here last night had extra cause to reflect.
Farrow, Harry C. Faulkner.
Visitors had the chance to stop and listen as volunteers read the names of those who died during the D-Day invasion of Normandy 75 years ago today. Nearly 9,000 names in all. Arizona Congresswoman Debbie Lesko, the daughter of a World War II veteran, said it was an honor to read some of those names on this day.
It's just a great feeling. I'm here, right here in front of us is the World War II Memorial, and behind us the Washington Monument. What better place could we do this than here? And I'm so glad.
The memorial sits between the Washington Monument and Lincoln Memorial. A pool and fountains surrounded by towering granite pillars for each state and arches for the theaters of war. Scenes of soldiers in action circle the memorial, and one wall is covered with thousands of stars, each one representing 100 soldiers who died. Lesko's father survived the war, but she said he still carried scars.
His Navy boat was a victim of a kamikaze suicide plane, and many of his friends died, and he was ordered to go and pick up some bodies, and he would stop talking about it because it was so painful to him.
The 9,000 names read here did not account for everyone who was lost in the Normandy invasion. Only those buried at the Normandy American Cemetery in France.
Unfortunately, there's no full list of names of all of those who died during Operation Overlord, but we do have the list of those buried in the cemetery, and so we're honoring all who gave their lives and sacrificed in the service for our country today, but by reading the names of the list that we do have.
And for a moment, the sky cleared from beyond the Lincoln Memorial, shining a little light along the water and the 56 granite pillars.
So for the families and the children and the grandchildren of all those that served in World War II, I want to say thank you. Thank you for your service, and for all the active duty military now, thank you for what you do for our country. We would not be the nation that we are without you.
The readings went until midnight Eastern Time, about the same time that Allied landing craft would have been nearing the beaches of Normandy 75 years ago today. On the National Mall in Washington, Julian Paras, Cronkite News.
The World War II Memorial is one of the newest in the nation's capital, opening just 15 years ago. But in that time, it has become one of the most popular. The National Park Services says more than 65 million people visited the memorial through 2018. Senator Martha McSally joined President Donald Trump at the D-Day Remembrance in Normandy. President Trump and other world leaders greeted veterans near Omaha Beach, the site of the Allied invasion in 1944 that ultimately pushed the Nazi forces from France. Senator McSally spoke to several Arizona veterans who were there for the ceremony, and she shared her own experience.
75 years ago, amazing heroes from America and our allies stormed these beaches in order to fight against tyranny, change the tide of the war, and protect our freedoms and way of life. I was so honored to meet so many of them, to include Arizonan George Cross. George was a paratrooper who jumped in behind enemy lines like so many did in order to disrupt the lines of communication and create confusion by the Germans so that the other heroes could continue to take this ground and end this awful, evil war. I'm so inspired and grateful. It's been the honor of my life to be able to be here today and to celebrate this day, and I hope all as Americans and Arizonans, we never forget their sacrifice and what they gave. Their last full measure of devotion. I walked by those crosses in the cemetery and saw the names of Arizonans there. Let us never, ever forget.
Small American and French flags were placed on the graves to mark the 75th anniversary of D-Day.
Veterans have more choices today when it comes to health care. The Mission Act is now in effect. It allows many veterans to get medical care outside of VA hospitals if they wait more than 20 days for an appointment. Vets will also be able to go to urgent care clinics. The Carl T. Hayden VA Medical Center is holding a command center today to help answer any questions.
We really want to help them. We want them to know that this is their VA and this is their program and they're at the center of everything we do.
There's information on the VA website on how to get benefits and all of the changes under the Mission Act.
Coming up on Cronkite News, put your dancing shoes on for this workout.
We show you why some people are getting their cardio on the dance floor instead of at the gym.
Plus, one local animal shelter is under quarantine. How you can help this situation next.
Cronkite News, weeknights at 5 on Arizona PBS.
Millions of people die every year from drinking dirty water. I would never have felt I had the ability to do something without ASU pushing me. We built filtration systems out of local materials with the people. To see those kids drink clean water for the first time, it's the most rewarding feeling that you can ever have. I went to ASU because I wanted to change the world. The thing I never would have expected is how the world would have changed me.
Welcome to another edition of Cronkite Sports Now. I'm Taylor Rocha. Let's talk sports.
For the latest on local sports and beyond, we've got you covered.
Let's do this thing.
We challenge reporters to go beyond, a game story. We want stories with depth.
It's just a crucial step from the college experience into the professional experience while you're still in school.
At Cronkite Sports Now, watch the journalists of tomorrow cover sports today.
A Valley Animal Shelter is asking for the public's help as it deals with some serious animal diseases. Maricopa Animal Care and Control will stop taking in pets at its East Valley facility after 3 dogs at the shelter have been confirmed with distemper, and several other dogs show signs of upper respiratory infection. The quarantine is causing an overflow at the West facility, so the shelter is asking people to adopt or foster animals to help make space.
Line dancing isn't just for bars and dance halls anymore. Now, people are dancing to the electric slide or Cotton Eye Joe as an alternative way to do cardio. Reporter Kyla Wilcher checked out this social way to get in shape.
5, 6, and 7, 8.
Bridget Thompson is a world champion line dancer who teaches men and women of all skill levels how to line dance. She says this style of dance is a fun cardio alternative to running or walking.
Line dance is great because people who are creative, people who love music, they get to move to a beat, to a music, they get to be around socially other people. And you saw from tonight, we burn a lot of calories line dancing.
A 2008 study by Professor Minette Aguilar from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, found that regular participation in line dancing can lower resting heart rate and improve recovery time.
You're just having a good time and you don't even think about the exercise part of it.
Aguilar's study cites mental benefits to line dancing as well, and Thompson compares it to doing crossword puzzles.
You can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Whether it's country or hip hop, line dancing can help improve memory and concentration. But for these dancers, the bottom line is having fun and letting loose.
You turn on the music and everybody enjoys it. It encompasses all genders, all ages, and it makes everybody feel really happy.
Dancer Chandra Staley says that line dancing isn't about nailing every step, but about having fun with friends and family.
My daughter got me into this because she made it look so easy. And she's like, Mom, you could do this. But it's so fun. It's a lot of fun, and I didn't realize how much fun it would be.
Thompson and her line dancing crew show that getting footloose can make fitness fun.
Isn't that the best part? Yeah. I really like it.
In Tempe, Kyla Wilcher, Cronkite News.
On Monday nights this June, Thompson is offering line dancing classes for all skill levels at NRG Ballroom.
Coming up on Cronkite News, one West Valley high schooler is turning her love of sloths into a contest winner.
It's a drawing that might be featured on one of the world's biggest social platforms.
Here at Cronkite News, we have producers who craft shows that make an impact on our community. Our broadcasts allow students to be involved in all levels of production, from producing to directing. We are guided by highly respected professionals who mentor the journalists of tomorrow. From technical directing to teleprompting and beyond, our production crew works tirelessly to produce meaningful and award-winning shows. We are Cronkite News on Arizona PBS.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
By the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Before Professor Halden, I had an insane amount of passion, but I almost felt helpless because I didn't know how to use it. Professor Halden gave me a chance to make a difference. Being at a place like ASU allows you to take these big leaps. Ultimately, the biggest problems in the world cannot be solved alone.
Welcome to another edition of Cronkite Sports Now. I'm Taylor Rocha. Let's talk sports.
For the latest on local sports and beyond, we've got you covered.
Let's do this thing.
We challenge reporters to go beyond, a game story. We want stories with depth.
It's just a crucial step from the college experience into the professional experience while you're still in school.
At Cronkite Sports Now, watch the journalists of tomorrow cover sports today.
Maricopa County has reported its first heat-related death of the year.
The county health department announced the man who died was homeless and severely dehydrated. The department says Maricopa County had 182 heat-related deaths last year due to exposure. This was the highest number of heat-related deaths on record for the county. If you're out in the heat and feel muscle cramps, headaches, vomiting, confusion, lack of sweat, and rapid heart rate, get to a doctor immediately.
So far, we have hit the high 90s, and triple digits are coming up in the forecast.
Bain Froney has our latest weather update. Bain, how's the weather looking?
Thanks, guys. Just a reminder, when you're outside, just make sure you drink lots of water, stay hydrated. Those summer temperatures are coming in really quickly. Right now, we're at about 100 degrees here in Phoenix, and then down in the south, they're sticking with us in those high 90s and low 100-degree temperatures. Up in the north, we're seeing a mixed bag of temperatures, high 70s, high 80s, even some 90s as well. Later this evening, we're going to be cooling down here in Phoenix just a little bit. Around 7 o'clock, we'll be hitting those 90s, high 90s, and then by 10 o'clock, we'll be back down in the low 90s. Later tomorrow morning, we're going to be in those low 80s in the beginning of the morning. And then by noon, we'll be back in those 90s and then increasing all the way into 100 degrees. We're also going to be having a nice warm weekend as well. Saturday, we're expecting temperatures of about 100 degrees and then Sunday, 105. But we're just going to keep on getting hotter. Wednesday is going to be our hottest day of the week. We're going to be seeing temperatures of about 110 degrees with cloudy skies, but that sun is going to be coming out on Thursday once again. Live in the Weather Center, I'm Bane Froney, Cronkite News.
The Grand Canyon National Park has officially been labeled as an international dark sky park. The park has been recognized in the past for reducing light pollution. The Grand Canyon Conservancy is installing more than 1,500 LED lights pointed at the ground. The park says right now, 67% of the lights meet the International Dark Sky Association's guidelines, but they hope to reach 90% by 2022.
A 9th grader from Surprise is competing to have her drawing become a Google Doodle. After winning the Google Arizona contest, Ella Kinnersley's drawing titled Sloths Are Neato earned her one of 12 final spots in her grade group. It shows her passion for endangered species. You can vote to help her become one of the 5 finalists and win scholarship money and a trip to Google headquarters.
Coming up on Cronkite News.
One dad's hobby outgrew his workshop.
So his son stepped in to create a showroom for dad's dwarf cars. We'll take you there next.
Here at Cronkite News, we have producers who craft shows that make an impact on our community. Our broadcasts allow students to be involved in all levels of production, from producing to directing. We are guided by highly respected professionals who mentor the journalists of tomorrow. From technical directing to teleprompting and beyond, our production crew works tirelessly to produce meaningful and award-winning shows. We are Cronkite News on Arizona PBS.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland, in Washington, in Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
Normally, parents support their kids when they find a hobby. That might require buying sports gear or art supplies. But in one Valley family, the roles are reversed.
When Ernie Adams' sons saw their dad run out of room for his passion, they took his hobby for cars to the next level. Sammy Giebers shows us this dwarf car museum.
Now, Gene's building this 64 Chevy convertible here.
Ernie Adams has a passion.
And this is my little 32 Ford 3-window coupe that I built.
He spends his days working on dwarf cars.
The car had radio, heater, defrosters, windshield wipers, cowl vent.
They don't realize he built his cars in front of this little shed.
His son remembers his dad building the tiny cars here years ago. And this is what the home for his hobby looks like today.
No, it all happened just accidentally. It just looks like anything else. It evolved into this.
Ernie's 3 sons, Jason, Richard, and Kevin, saw their dad running out of room in the garage when he was working on his dwarf cars. People were always coming over, interested in seeing them.
Well, I just wanted to build the cars. I didn't care about showing them. but they decided they should be shown.
That little tool shed evolved into a museum. Thousands of people come through here every year to see these guys. Adam's sons are over volunteering at the museum all the time. You'd think his boys would be making cars themselves.
If he had to work with me, he wouldn't get anything done. About the most I get to do on the cars is hold something once in a while.
They just enjoy being around family. Even though the boys weren't building the cars themselves, they were building up their dad.
It's good to know that they'll be here after I'm gone. All the kids are good kids, all three of them. I was just cleaning the top off a little bit.
So even though it's Dad's hobby, it's the family's museum. In Maricopa, Sammy Giebers, Cronkite News.
You can meet Ernie Adams at the Dwarf Car Museum just about every day.
It's open from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more information, visit dwarfcarmuseum.com. Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, a special from our Elemental Sustainability collaboration. The oil industry's hold in the western United States has endured for generations, and the modern push towards clean and renewable energy is creating tension in communities and turmoil at the ballot box. Elemental has a series of reports from our public media collaborations in California, Colorado, and Arizona on the traditions and transitions of Western energy. Join us tonight at 5:30 right here on Arizona PBS for an Arizona Horizon special, Coming Clean, Oil's Legacy in the Age of the Green Dream.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.